Just to be clear, I am a huge advocate of living frugal and living below your means. This video is not meant to discourage anyone from doing that. In fact, I would actively promote anyone to try doing this if you can, because I think there are very real benefits to living frugal and not spending as much as you make. But one thing that upsets me with a lot of discourse online about this topic is a lot of people make it seem as if it's easy or as if it's like a no-brainer, and it just feels very disingenuous. So I really just kind of wanted to go through today and talk about my experiences, and hopefully y'all can relate to them a little bit. To all the people out there that are currently working their ass off, not getting paid enough for it, and are still finding a way to put some of that money away into savings and investments, much respect goes out to you. Like I said, it's not an easy choice. There are an infinite number of things that you could spend your money on, and investing it into a stock or into anything and just kind of waiting until tomorrow to be able to use that money is boring as shit. But don't let that fool you. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop. And it doesn't mean you should either. Because once you truly understand how money and investing works, it fundamentally changes you and your mindset towards a lot of different things, not just money and work. I personally believe that the average person would retire decades before what the average person retires at currently if finances were taught better throughout school systems. Now, my personal tinfoil hat theory is that it's purposely not taught in schools or to anyone, because if everyone even just had a general understanding of how compound interest worked, most people would invest at least some money, and I think the average retirement age, obviously this is just speculation, but my personal guess is that it would be somewhere around 45 to 50, and obviously the big corporations don't like that very much. But regardless of why things might be the way they are, once you learn how compound interest works, it really starts to feel like you're playing life with cheat codes enabled. Now, if you guys are anything like me and you've learned a little bit about this compound interest stuff, the first reaction I had was I felt like I just discovered this big secret and I wanted to share it with as many people as possible. And that's where some of that social cost can come in, and that's kind of what prompted me to want to make this video today. Because in certain instances, just having conversations amongst my own friends and family, it almost feels like you have the solution to everyone's problems. Again, that's not to say that any of this stuff is easy. I can't reiterate that enough, but it is possible. It just takes time, effort, and discipline. One thing I've had to keep telling myself is that it's important not to show that you feel like you have the answers, because the thing is that you might not. You never really know somebody's exact financial picture, at least probably not. And even if you did, what works for you might not work for someone else. Even with that being said, though, there are certain instances where, you hear of someone who just bought a brand new car, and then a few months down the line, they start complaining about how it feels like they have no money. And the thing to do would have been not to buy a new car, because there's so many better uses for your money. The other thing is, even if you try your hardest to explain it to people, sometimes they're just not going to get it. And this is another instance where it's important to zoom out and realize that if you were them, you'd probably be reacting the exact same way they are. Think about how long it took you personally to realize that your money would be better spent not on yourself, but as an investment for future you. I mean, that's a big thing to overcome, at least at first. And the people who haven't figured that out yet, their perception of you is going to be a lot different. When you talk about things like maybe not wanting to be a homeowner because of the opportunity cost of that and how you might be better off buying stocks instead of real estate, people look at you as if you're insane. And I've had conversations about real estate versus stocks with just about all of my friends and family, and none of them agree with me, even though I think if they sat down and looked at the numbers and learned more about this stuff, I think their tune would start to change. And it's not just those conversations that I've been personally having, but it kind of bleeds into all aspects of life as well. Things like my friends asking me to go out to eat or go out to the bars with them, my family members asking me to go on vacations with them, people asking me to do this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, guys, I don't have the time and money for all of it, so I have to pick and choose. And sometimes I'm going to prioritize my investments over things of that nature. Obviously, I'm not saying that all of my money is going to go to investments and I'm never going to live my life, but striking that balance between those two things is very, very hard, and I'm still trying to figure it out as I go along here. But again, I feel like people just don't get it. Sometimes I feel as if when I talk about this stuff, they assume that I don't have very much money, which, might be true, but That's not the point. A good example of what I'm talking about is when I was out with my friends this past weekend. We were all going to see The Odyssey. And out loud, I was kind of debating with myself on whether or not I should buy snacks. On one hand, I know that spending $12 or more on a bucket of popcorn is not a very good use of my money because it's overpriced. But on the other hand, I was hungry at the time, so it was a real trade-off. But I ended up siding against it. And one of the things that my friend said to me was he thought it was about me not having the money. Now, I think he was kind of half joking and he wasn't taking a dig at me or anything, but it's one of those things where I don't know how to get across that, like, I could afford the popcorn. I'm just choosing not to buy it. But even on a small decision like that, putting my money towards an investment instead of something that's overpriced and going to be consumed in an hour is a way better use of my money. Also, in general, I've just been trying to spread this knowledge as much as I can, and I feel like I'm low-key annoying the shit out of everyone I know. Part of this is just definitely on me for bringing up random stuff at random times. Like, I don't think drinking beer in my buddy's garage with 15 other guys there is probably a good time to be talking about HSAs. The other aspect of living frugal is you also have that outward appearance to worry about. Now, this one is going to be especially useful to the single folks out there, but it is hard to strike that balance between caring about your outward appearance enough so that you don't come off as like a complete slob or as someone who's like gross or dirty or whatever, but at the same time you don't want to be spending all your money trying to impress other people who generally don't actually care about you at the end of the day. Or at the very least, they care about you, but they don't care about like what clothes you're wearing or what car you drive. Now, one thing I want to say to the single folks out there is that if you're trying to attract someone based on your money, whether that be like the income you have or the car you drive or the way you spend your money, if any of it relates to money, that's just not going to be a good long-term outcome. I mean, I guess if maybe all you were looking to do was like a short-term thing, then it doesn't really matter that much. But if you're going for a more long-term thing and the way you get them interested in you is because they think you're a high earner, I gotta say, I'm not a gambling man, but I'd be willing to bet everything that it won't end well. So yeah, when it comes to outward appearance, I think simple is better. It also makes you less likely of a target for people to want to come after your money. That's one of the biggest reasons I think people like Adam Sandler dress like a middle schooler going to gym class, even though they're worth millions. But yeah, guys, if you're like me and you're trying to make your money work for you, and you're gonna have to keep sacrificing things every day so that you can be investing that money, hats off to you, man, because this is no easy task. But bit by bit, brick by brick, we're building every day. And we just gotta keep pushing. Okay, bye.